There has long been this suspicion that the Russians are not delivering enough gas into Europe for political purposes. Am I being maybe a little bit cynical? What is happening here? Why have we not had thus far, over the summer period, the supplies that we would normally expect from Russia?
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to talk here. Well, that's quite clearly a global gas supply crunch, and lots of factors that have caused it. So it's a perfect storm, as a lot of events, a chain of events, and today's news about the UK cable, just extra addition to the whole list. And if you look at Gazprom's supply forecast, which the company made in May this year, and which it has updated in late August, it did warn Europe that its supply would be at a certain range, and the upper figure would be about 183 BCM. In August, it just confirmed that forecast. So one can't really tell that Europe wasn't warned. Gazprom told Europeans what the supplies would be. So the talk about withholding supplies, I personally don't subscribe to that view. I think that three strands in that question. Is there a shortage in export transportation capacity that Gazprom experiencing? Is there shortage potentially in supplies, i.e. Gazprom simply doesn't have enough gas available at the moment?
Well, Katja,
yes.
that actually raises an interesting point that also feeds into the oil market. What is the state of Russian energy production? There is a lot of confusion as to how easy it is to ramp up, how easy it is to move it around, what had to get turned off, particularly in the cold winter, what can get turned back on. What's the state?
Right. My impression is that Gazprom is really doing as much as is possibly physically possible, because gas fields, they're not like magic, porridge pots. They have flow rate, and it's just as much as can be done. And it looks like it's doing all it can. And of course, its priority is to fill its domestic storages for the long winter. And that's what it's doing now. And then afterwards, my view is that it would be able to offer the freed up gas for Europe. And the point to make here is Gazprom to date has honored all of its contractual supply obligations to Europe. It hasn't broken a single contract. So that's the thing. It's now prioritizing Russian storages. Once it feels comfortable at their level, because it's obligation under the Russian law, it would be, in my view, able to offer that gas to Europe, which could come either by Nord Stream 2 if it's certified in time, or Ukraine capacity is now fully booked and is no extra
Katja,
booked. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about domestic storage and how there is a requirement to fill that. But Gazprom also has said that gas flow to China has exceeded contract requirements. Is China more of a priority than Europe?
Those are separate things, because those are connected to completely different fields, and those fields are not connected by any infrastructure. So the infrastructure, the Nadim Kurtaz and Yamal, that's westward looking, that's the source for supplies and flows to Europe. And Eastern Siberia are gas fields, those are for China, Asia, and those are not connected. At present, there is no connection. So you can't really talk about arbitrage between the two. That's not correct. That's not what's going on.
If we were to see any kind of weaponization of the gas market by Russia, what would that look like? So from a Western point of view, what were some of the clues that we'd have to see if it is happening versus not?
Well, in my view, and I've been watching that situation really closely, I mean, Gazprom, as very important supplier to Europe, it clearly benefited from the tight market. And as I said, lots of factors caused that tight market. But in my view, it has not abused it. It has not manipulated it. It's been honoring its contracts. Now it's just, prioritizing domestic supplies, what would one expect, and it's obliged to do that under the law. But going forward, I think it would be and should be able to offer gas to Europe. And the question here, the key question, is via which routes and how much capacity it will be able to count on to do so in the coming month.
When do you expect certification of Nord Stream 2? Like, it's finished, but we need certification of that to start. And how important is Nord Stream 2? Is it possible that we can use all of the capacity, or do you think the Russians will switch from transiting Ukraine to using Nord Stream 2, and that will be the way that Russia now supplies the excess gas that potentially could be available to Europe?
Well, I think depending when Nord Stream 2 is allowed to operate, and Gazprom announced that before the end of this year, if it's allowed to operate, what it could supply is about 5.5 BCM. It's not huge, but it's some relief to the market, but it's also an indication that more would be coming on later on. As for Ukraine, so the gas that freed up would go via Nord Stream 2 if it's allowed to. There's also a possibility to go via Ukraine, but in Ukraine, Gazprom has booked capacity 40 BCM under the existing contract. Ukraine has been offering just a little bit extra of firm capacity, but not significant amount. And simply, Ukraine has not been offering any extra firm capacity that Gazprom could be booked. It's not offered. And if it's not offered, it can't be used.